news,
Lobbyists are fed up with politicians accepting their money and then not coming through.
opinion,
When the automated police force orders you inside, that's just them doing their job.
remix.
Even lost my job partially due to the whole global warming issue. Increase in oil prices. This guy's scared.
This is Top Story with KLIXcast and Jill Skeen,
I've been a listener for about 20 years.
I'm talking to you makes me feel better.
where the news meets your opinion. Pick up the phone and talk about it. 736-0300. That's 736-0300. Now, here's the hosts of Top Story, KLIXcast and Jill Skeen.
7360300 is the number to call. Man, I tell you, in this day and age, when the power goes out for whatever reason, if some drunk idiot runs into a power pole or somebody decides they need to turn off the power for a couple of seconds to do something and then turn it back on without telling anybody.
No one will notice.
Oh, gosh. I don't mind telling you, I'm a little pissed right now, but at any rate,
I hope we don't have
not
to
a lot I can do about it until 10 o'clock when I get off the air.
I hope we don't have to have Cable One back.
Yeah, oh yeah, the cable's out, the internet's out. I don't know.
What was
the
his
heck
name
happened.
again?
Tim?
Tim? No, the Cable One guy, was it Tim?
I think so.
Okay, Tim, come on over.
Okay, wait a minute. What's that? Oh, okay, thank you. Oh,
All right,
I don't know if it'll work or not. I can't tell in here because I'm not doing anything that uses it right now. So. Okay, now where were we? I'm sorry, Steve.
So the question
I didn't
was,
realize this lawsuit against the GOP was going to have such a traumatic effect on the Magic Valley and Idaho Power.
Yeah, right. It's just blowing things all to pieces here. Now you know how we feel inside the party.
So I think the point was, what happens? Do you think the other side is going to sit there and go, okay, well, we'll resign to the fact that this was the court ruling?
Yeah, if that's what comes down, one would hope and one would think that they would just say, okay, we played our last card and we were not successful, and so we will go ahead with the August 2nd meeting in Boise and elect a new party leadership and roll forward from there. There are lots of things going on. We have got two front runners at least. Well, we have two front runners. We don't have any idea how many additional individuals want to be a state party chairman. But we have two front runners that have sent out mailers and posted things and are actively pursuing selection as the state party chair. One of them is a guy from Idaho Falls by the name of Steve Yates. He has a very impressive resume. The other one that comes out is a kid from Burley by the name of Doug Pickett. And the Pickett name should be quite common here in the Magic Valley. Yates has only been in Idaho for about 3 or 4 years, but he has an impressive resume of working in the Washington, D.C. area.
Is that where he's from?
He was raised in Maryland, I think he says in his bio. But
he's an Easterner.
He's an Easterner.
I know. How do you feel about that?
So what?
Good gosh, is he a real Idahoan?
What is he doing in Idaho?
That's right.
He's a
That's
plant.
what I want to know.
He's a plant.
He is. Yeah.
Why is he out here?
What's his real reason? He says that he has some brothers who live in Idaho Falls.
Right. Whatever, brothers.
His family, other family members in Idaho Falls, and he just wants to be closer to family members.
We have
a caller. Okay.
Yeah, we have a caller. I don't know if the phone system's going to work.
Well,
Let's give it a try. Top Story, you're on the air. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hello there. Hello. How are you today? Can you hear me?
We can't hear him.
Okay. No, apparently not. I don't know. I don't think it's the phone system. But anyway, go ahead. Where were we? Okay. So these two guys have surfaced as the two front runners for the chairmanship position. We still have a guy by the name of Mike Duff from Blackfoot who has thrown his hat in the ring. We have there are probably a couple of others who will show up Saturday morning and want to participate or be considered a candidate as well. We also now have people. There's 5 elected positions: chairman, first vice chair, second vice chair, secretary, and treasurer. And so now we have a person who has thrown her hat in the ring to be the secretary. And her name, I think, is Jill.
No, it's not me.
Yeah, get on the ball.
I'll be like the other guy.
Jill Cravens.
No.
She's from Blackfoot.
Yep.
And has served in the Bingham County Republican Central Committee for a while. She is a high school teacher and lists some very important criteria for selecting a successful secretary. And so now we have got that group of people that are starting to surface.
And they're going to be attending this Saturday's meeting.
Assuming that the judge says, okay, have your meeting on Saturday and you guys get this thing worked out. This is not something that the court should be involved in. If the judge should say, here's the permanent injunction against the August 2nd meeting, then everything goes into fruit basket upset because what will happen on the August 9th meeting? We know what the agenda is for the August 2nd meeting. We're going to elect new officers. The August 9th meeting, that agenda could be a little bit more difficult to get your hands around. It could in a de facto sense, say, well, Barry Peterson, you are still chairman, and so why do we need to have an election?
Yeah.
You could just remain chairman for 2 more years.
Now, how would this side accept it? How would your side accept it?
I don't think that would go over too well. And actually, I can tell you it wouldn't go over at all.
So then what would happen? So the point is, if both sides aren't happy with the legal outcome, how are you going to bring it together, or is this going to split the Republican Party?
Interesting question. Will we reach the point where the libertarians and the constitutionalists vacate the Republican Party? Mm-hmm. And because there's the ones who are trying to hijack it at the present time. And so if this wins...
Well, now, let me just stop you right there for a minute.
Hijack's a bad word.
Well, it is kind of, because I've heard from a lot of down-home, salt-of-the-earth Republican people who say they are on that side because they believe what you might call the mainstream Republicans have gone to the left, and they have left the Republican Party.
Yeah, they're too moderate.
So they're simply trying to save what's left.
And you'll get that argument from both sides. And 2 or 3 people that I know say, wait a minute, as a Republican Party, we are extremely conservative, probably one of the most conservative groups in the United States. Why do we need to become more so? Let's just maintain the course. We're very conservative, very directed. Let's stay right on task. And then we have the far right-hand side, so to speak, who say, wait a minute, we've got to be more so. We need to do this and this and this.
So do you agree with Kelly that the far right wing is the true Republicans and you guys are more moderate? I mean, I don't agree with that at all.
Moderate, I don't think is part of the vocabulary. We are the traditional conservative Republican Party.
But so you're saying the right wing is more right wing from you.
Those guys are really.
So who are you saying is the established one?
I'm just saying what people are saying.
I've heard people say they've left it. They don't even identify with it anymore.
Right, yeah, exactly.
But not because they're too far left. It's because they're too far right.
So that's the thing, though. You're hearing that on both sides because
that's right.
from the real writers, you hear that they did leave it and they went to the left.
Yeah.
So, you kind of got... He said here.
Yep, the libertarian constitutionalists will say that we absolutely have abdicated our conservative responsibilities, and we have moved more to the left of center.
And so the Barry Peterson wing, you might say, is just trying to save what was the Republican Party in Idaho.
Pull it back to its conservative base.
We have a caller. Let's go ahead and see if we can get her this time. Top story, you're on the air. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, good morning. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
All right. Hey, first of all, I've got a question, Kelly, Jill. Have you guys had Barry Peterson on the show?
No, we haven't had him on yet.
Will he come on the show? I'd love to hear from him.
I don't know.
The last time we heard, he wasn't talking to the media, but, you might be right. It would be great to have him on here. I think we're going to try to do that.
Very interesting. And I just want to ask Steve a question, too, or just kind of throw this out there at him. Steve, I think the Republicans are going to be in a lot of trouble this November. I just have a feeling that there's a shift in the air, that the longer you guys keep screwing around like this, I mean, this is getting embarrassing.
That's an excellent point. This is worse than embarrassing. You have really picked up on that very well.
And it's, I think a lot of people, I'm even confused now, what the conservative or is it the liberal wing of the party that you guys represent now? I mean,
I know.
For anybody to call the traditional Idaho Republicans liberal or not conservative enough is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And I think there are a lot of people, I'm a left-wing liberal, I'll admit it, but I think there are a lot of people that I talk to who aren't like me, who are more like the traditional Republicans who are just saying, holy moly, I don't know what to think anymore.
Well,
and I think they may just out of disgust just say, you know what, maybe I'll try a Democrat. What do you think?
Well, I think your analysis of this situation is not unique to you alone. Yeah. I think we hear that a lot. In the past couple of weeks, I have visited with several acquaintances and friends from the Treasure Valley area, and I would consider them to be very Republican in nature. But they are so disgusted and so angry with this whole stupid mess that they're beginning to ask the question, so what's wrong with voting for the other side?
I've heard that a lot, too.
And frankly, we look like we are, and we're in such pathetic disarray that people just look around and say, you guys can't even organize a Sunday afternoon picnic. Why would I elect you to run the government?
Do you think they would really vote for, quote unquote, the other side? Or because I still maintain that conservative folks in Idaho will vote for a bad Republican before they will a good Democrat.
I think that's mostly correct, but I think we're seeing a lot of change in that.
Yeah, I've heard it.
We talked a little bit about a new political action committee that has been formed in the Treasure Valley, and gaining some traction, getting a lot of response. And one of the comments that was made in this write-up, and I'm quoting from an article by Dan Popke out of the
Idaho Statesman.
He indicates that over 53% of the voters in the state of Idaho are what we would categorize as unaffiliated.
Right.
Yeah. In other words, they have not marked the Republican ballot or they have not marked the Democrat ballot. They consider themselves unaffiliated voters.
So where do you think those votes will go?
Well, here's the more poignant question, I think, Jill, and that is, who really determines the success of an election?
Oh, yeah.
The unaffiliated voters.
Absolutely.
And if you continue to run them off, to disenfranchise them from the Republican Party, that is not a good sign. Absolutely not. Because if they vote as a bloc, they could easily elect a third-party person.
Right.
Now, clearly they won't vote as a bloc or have not done so in the past, but it's fascinating. And that when I saw the 53% number, I thought that's a little lower than I remember in my mind. I thought it was closer to 55 to 58. But, 3 or 4 percentage points, I guess, is not a big deal. But what that really says is only 47% of the voters in the state of Idaho will have publicly affiliated with either Republicans or Democrats. And the Republicans have like close to 30% of that block, and the Democrats about 20. So you have this real interesting dilemma. Where are we on this thing? And our caller is spot on. Will there be a lot of people who will just simply say, I've had enough? And that's why it's imperative that as a Republican Party, we get this thing behind us and get our voice heard again and present a common front to everybody in the state.
Well, we have a quick call. Hopefully.
Well, we're running out of time, too, but can you hang around for a while?
Yeah, I'll hang around.
You haven't gotten any texts from your friends yet, have you?
I haven't gotten any text.
Do you want to take his call? His question?
Top story. You're on the air. Got about 10 seconds.
I can tell you right now, we the people of Idaho are conservative, and we're tired of people doing the show votes, only voting in our direction whenever it doesn't count. Whenever it actually means something, they vote towards the Democrats, and I'm sick of it, and I know a lot of people are.
That's very good. Thank you.
When do they vote towards the Democrats? I've been here for how long? I mean, I don't see a lot of Democrats in office.
I'll tell you what, we're going to go to the news, and then we'll be right back with more Steve Millington and who knows what else. Maybe we'll turn the power off again. All coming up on Top Story. And welcome back to Top Story, where 7360300 is the number to call. And welcome back, Jill.
Thanks, Cal. Same to you.
We still have Steve with us here. We're waiting for a decision from the courts. No, I know. I just have to say that the internet is back. Thank you, Lord.
Oh, goodness.
Anymore, we are so dependent on the internet that when something happens, everybody's, oh, my gosh, I got to email a client, and oh, my heavens, now what am I going to do? And
or
it's like,
I have all my appointments on my computer.
There.
This is why I still write them down.
Although the internet being down shouldn't have anything to do with that, unless, of course, it's just kept on another server somewhere.
A lot of times you can't log in and you can't get
Yeah, I know. Well, I tell you, they've got us, don't they? We have been defeated by the techno geeks.
One of the interesting things, you talk about these preppers that want to prepare everything for the end of the world kind of. I think the single most important thing we have to be prepared for is loss of electrical power.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's right. No question about
everything.
it.
I mean, now that books are now electronic,
right.
everything.
Shut down the electricity for a couple of 3 days, and let's see what happens.
That's why a lot of them have generators.
That's exactly right.
As do I.
And ham radios.
And ham radios. And old tube ham radios. So the EMP bombs won't affect our communications. So.
Yeah, go over to Kelly's
when
house.
Something happens, everybody's going to be trying to get a hold of old Kelly here.
We're running to Kelly's ham radio basement.
Because I can still get water out of the well, and I can still communicate.
Kelly doesn't realize this, but I very discreetly made sure that I had his exact address.
Yeah, right.
So that I know just where to go to get everything I need.
It's funny, I don't have it. Nice.
We're not giving it to you.
Cal.
Anyway, so we're hanging on to Steve because we're kind of still waiting for a decision to come from the courts regarding the lawsuit for the GOP meeting coming up this Saturday. So then we lost power for just a few brief seconds in the last hour, and of course that throws everything into a tizzy.
Why don't you just play the soap opera music again?
We really should.
One.
Today is just a soap opera
kind of day.
It is a soap opera type day today, ladies and gentlemen. So let's just play the role, shall we?
There we go.
My heavenly days! But we do have a caller.
Okay,
so let's take the call. Top Story, you're on the air. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Kelly. Good morning, Lily Jill.
Good morning.
Hello. Listen, Steve, under the conservative genre that you speak of, it's when you say less government and defense and all this, the way it all plays out is just you want the government to protect the corporations and defend them at all costs and treaties and stuff. But tell me something. How, under your creative conservative ideas, how are you going to create a middle class, which is already disappearing? How is it that you still under that entry level deal don't want to raise the minimum wage? But how? Explain to me and the rest of the callers, how is the middle class going to come back under these ideas? Thank you.
Okay, wait a minute. Wait for it. Okay. I just wanted you to know I did not hang up on him. Okay. All right. Just so we have that clear. All right, Steve. Now
we want to make sure. Now
about the middle class.
About the middle class. What do we have to do to get them to regain their position? And the question really is, what happened to the middle class? Where did they go? And it's not so simple an issue of which political ideology do we want to buy into, so much as it is where do we think the country should be going. And if we can destroy the middle class, then the strength, the real backbone of American society goes away with it. And then we don't have the middle class was the group of people who provided the greatest generation, to go back and steal a phrase from Tom Brokaw, I think. That's still a fascinating book. If you haven't read it, you need to spend a few minutes. Or
a few months, probably, in my case.
Yeah, maybe it'd take you more than a few minutes.
But, I mean, really, over the last 30 years, the middle class, wages have stayed stagnant.
If you go back and look at asset values in 2000, I want to say 2007, but it might have been 2006. The average, not asset, but wages, the average middle class wage earner was making about $55,000 or $56,000 a year. Wrong, that was households. In 2013, the last that they had information available for, that number was $50,500. So average earnings have decreased almost $5,000, 10% almost, in about a 6 or 7 year period there. And you cannot continue to create a strong, healthy, middle-class America unless we have earnings increases and job growth and potential in that same category. We're still seeing a lot of jobs disappear to foreign countries. Even though we see a few trickle back now and then, there still is a huge exodus of high-paying quality jobs. And $50,000 a year is only a $25 an hour job.
Right.
You know, there's about 2,080 working hours in a year. Call it 2,100. So if you're making $25 an hour, you're going to be making right in the $55,000 range. And I've always thought, well, that's a pretty good job, but it's not a wealthy job. Right. It's just a pretty good kind of a job. Well, those are the kind of jobs that still seem to be on an exodus out of the United States. And I think too many government regulations is an issue. I think the corporate tax rate is an issue. I think, do we really have the trained workforce that can keep those higher paying jobs in America? It used to be, you know, that they just took the low paying jobs to these countries and they had low income factory workers putting things together. Not so much anymore. They have people in these foreign countries who are extraordinary and very well trained and highly capable individuals, and we can export that work there and then bring it back. I remember a few years ago I read a book by Tom Friedman, I think is the name, The World is Flat.
Mm-hmm, that's him.
And he mentioned in there an example of where you would go in and have a X-ray or an MRI, and that information would be sent to India, and the radiologists would read it and whatever it is they do to it, evaluate it in India, and send the information back to the United States. So the radiologist doesn't even live in this country. Yeah. How's that going to work?
We have another caller.
We do. In fact, the phones are running over. Top story. You're on the air. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. I wanted to respond to the former caller and say that I agree with everything that was just said, but I would add to that one of the reasons why wages have gone down so much in this country is because of so much immigration, you know, illegal and legal, that it has thrown our labor market out of balance, and there's too much labor for the number of jobs. And if we were to both get rid of a whole bunch of the illegal people that are here and get them back to where they came from, and to shut off our borders, that the labor market would get back in balance and wages would go back up the way they're supposed to be.
We talked to, is it Brent Olmsted from the Idaho milk producers, and and this was a couple of weeks ago. Actually, he said just the opposite. He says that the dairies and such can't hardly, he said, and they're paying good wages, but the dairies can't hardly find enough legal people to work, let alone illegal people. Or should I get that?
I've heard that argument. And perhaps there's probably another side of that some people are just too lazy to work at hard jobs. I don't know the answer to that.
Well, that's part of the problem that he mentioned. Yeah, he said they can't get American citizens to work those jobs, even if they are paying fairly good wages. So,
but I think also because we have 3 million jobs in this country that are unfilled because our workforce isn't trained for it. And that's part of the issue as well. I don't think it's the lowest paying job, not to mention that the minimum wage should be increased to help these people get out of poverty, but and help the middle class. Well, if you talk about 50,000, how do people live on $7.25 an hour?
I think the inadequacy of workforce development and job training is really a critical thing. So many companies will say, I can't find people to fill this position. They do not have the proper qualifications.
Do you think part of that might be that it costs so dadgum much to go to school in America now?
Well,
the universities?
It costs an awful lot. There's no question about that, and it's over the top. Getting through those places is a tremendous burden. The biggest decision that high school age students have to make today is not what career do I want, but how can I finance that opportunity?
Yeah.
And many times they just keep emphasizing over and over and over, stay close to home. This is an advertisement for the College of Southern Idaho. Stay close to home. Use a community college where you can get the first couple of years of we used to call them filling the groups. I don't know what they're called now, but
the basic courses.
The basic courses.
Yeah,
That's right. Fill those things close to home and then migrate to a 4-year college. And with CSI in Twin Falls, you don't have to leave. It may take you a little longer, but you can get on track at Idaho State, Boise State, and University of Idaho and stay right here in Twin Falls and finish up a regular bachelor's 4-year degree.
And yet we have 1 out of 12 actually complete college in
I would like
this area.
I'd like to know how they evaluate that. There are several factors that hit that thing that I wonder if they're taking into consideration. For example, there is a lot of Latter-day Saint population in this area, Mormons, if you will, and with the change in the age requirements to serve full-time missions, these kids can go on a mission at age 18. And so they make this assumption and they say, oh, they're not in college, they're not in college. Well, they're in the mission field. And when they come home in 2 years, then they go back to school, but they fall out of the matrix that they're using to create that formula. Now, I don't think that's...
So you're saying that's not accurate?
I don't think that is the total answer, but before I put a lot of credence in that kind of an explanation, I would want to know what criteria are they using to make that determination.
Yeah, well, even if it was 1 out of 8 or 7, it would still be
it's not that great.
And it's interesting. In the last year, we've had the gold mining companies out of northern Nevada, and I want to say Newmont Gold.
Yeah.
And they put together a machinists program at College of Southern Idaho because they couldn't find qualified machinists to work in their repair shops. So they opened up a program at CSI and said, come here and take this program. I'm sorry, I don't know enough about it. I don't know whether it's a 1-year or a 2-year. I don't know. But they're begging people to take training to go down there. And these are jobs that are paying in the $25 to $30 range.
Yeah. I think another problem is a lot of this generation and the younger generations don't want to get their hands dirty. All they want to do is play with computers. But we'll be right back here on Top Story. 7360300 is the number to call. And yesterday's $100 instant winning name is Bob Pollard.
Bob Pollard, congratulations.
And your $100 word of the day for today is next.
Next.
N-E-X-T. Next. Go to our website, newsradio1310.com, click on Word of the Day, type in next, listen tomorrow. You hear your name tomorrow, played the Word of the Day today, you win $100.
That's how easy that is.
I don't know how simpler that can get.
I don't know. It's just as simple as going to the UPS store and renting a mailbox.
You got it.
Go to the corner of Blue Lakes and Addison, rent a mailbox, and you say, why do I need a mailbox? I'm like, well, maybe you're moving. Maybe your party chair took over the office. You don't know how to get your mail. I'm sorry, I can't help myself. I love it. Anyway, maybe your mail isn't as safe as you think it should be. Go to the UPS store, tell them that Joe or Kelly sent you, and you'll receive 1, 2, or 3 additional months free, and that's based on the length of the lease that you choose. While you're there, you can pack, you can ship, you can laminate, you can copy. No drop-off fees for prepaid packages or mail, and you can buy a cute little animal card for all your friends and family, and they're open on Saturdays.
Just like that.
Just like that. Corner of Blue Lakes and Addison, UPS store.
Now, we're waiting for an update from the court of Judge Randy Stoker regarding a ruling on the injunction against the meeting coming up this Saturday with the Idaho GOP. How's that for a headline? So,
that's a good one.
What have you gotten so far?
Well, about 10 minutes ago, I got a text that says, we are still waiting.
Oh,
so is
one
that,
of those
this
deals.
is what we say. You got bupkis.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah. The wheels of justice grind slowly.
And this morning, very slowly.
Yeah.
And they grind so slowly that they blew out our entire electrical system in this facility.
Yeah, that's right.
I wonder if a lot of people are attending that hearing.
I don't know.
You would be there if you weren't here, right?
I probably would be, yes.
Yeah. But
is anyone there? Does anyone know? Is anyone in the courtroom? Tell us.
Obviously, your plants say that they're still waiting.
They're still waiting.
And as soon as they issue something, if it's before 10 o'clock, we'll find out. We got a caller.
Come on, Judge Stoker.
Top story. You're on the air.
Show.
Good morning.
I just love how you hear every day that the Republicans get blamed for the way that the wages are, for the jobs that left, or anything else. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I seem to recall that when China was granted most favored nation status, that Bill Clinton was the president, and that Bill Clinton pushed that through with the Department of Commerce. I'm not saying Republicans weren't involved, but I'm saying, for Democrats to sit there and wash their hands and say, hey, all these jobs are leaving because of the Republicans, to me is just, it just shows how short-term the memory of the American public is. The next point being on jobs is, again, if you have, what is a good-paying job? You got a guy who comes out on a dairy. What did he say his good-paying job is? I don't know very many people that are out milking cows making $50,000 a year. So I mean, I don't know. I think that when you have people come in and they're willing to do those jobs at such low wages, and they send the money they don't keep the money in our economy. They send it back home.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
And I think though that if you were really to think about it, that if those low-paying jobs, they would have to pay more to get the labor there that they needed. They would have to pay whatever the market decided the demand was. Now, would that make our food cost more? Yes, it would, but everybody would be making more money, because if they were paying somebody $50,000 to milk cows, it would probably be hard to pay somebody, $7.25 to flip burgers at McDonald's. Look at Williston, North Dakota. It's a perfect example of what happens when you have a true free market economy. You've got oil companies out there that are paying people $100,000 a year. What's starting wage at Walmart in Williston, North Dakota? $17 an hour. So
I saw that too.
And let me guess, does it help the economy? Of course it does.
Well,
does it?
But that's the market. That's not government coming in and saying that the minimum wage needs to be $17.
Don't you think the minimum wage should be increased at all?
No,
for
I
federal?
do not.
Really, it should stay at $7.25 an hour.
It should be demand driven.
Yeah.
And our
We're paying for that.
Our caller made an interesting reference to McDonald's. The last time I was I wasn't in Williston. I was just south of Williston in. Right on the North Dakota-South Dakota border, but the McDonald's store there was paying $15 an hour, and there was a $5,000 signing bonus. If you stayed for 6 months, they gave you the signing bonus.
Yeah, and also, and it helps the economy.
I'm moving to South Dakota.
I'm sorry, I think the minimum wage should be going up.
That's market-driven economy.
And the business has to be such that they can afford to do that. So.
If you're going to keep your doors open, you're going to have to pay your employees whatever's required to get them to work.
Because if the government requires that and the business can't afford it, the business will go bust.
But should the government be subsidizing their workforce? Because these people that are making $7.25 an hour, they're going on food stamps because they cannot live on $7.25 an hour, so we're paying for it, and I don't agree with that.
Part of that problem is because the government gives too many things away. So why work? You can get it for free with the government.
But when you're working 40 hours a week,
Jill, they have no impetus to go to work.
If you don't think it doesn't help the economy by increasing the minimum wage, then you're crazy. The caller just said it. You just said it. Increase the minimum wage. It'll help our economy. It goes directly back into the economy.
If it's done in a market-driven.
$7.25 was forced by the government.
The federal government.
If your government is forced to pay a certain minimum wage and can't afford it, you got to close your business. But if the market will handle it and you can afford to pay it,
they're showing that it does help the
economy,
along with infrastructure bill that should be passed. No thanks to the Republicans.
We'll be right back. 7360300 is the number to call. Well, things are starting to get interesting here. Steve Millington is on the phone as we speak, trying to find out what happened. Apparently, he did not dismiss the lawsuit, so that's the latest we have so far. But before we get back to that, I just wanted to mention that the CERTA set from Far More of Idaho is something you want to investigate. If you, especially if you have sprinkler pipe, that has to be moved out of the field before you can go in and harvest a crop or do anything in the field. You might want to look into the Certiset, because it is a special system where there is a flexible pipe. It is picked up by an attachment on the swather and dropped down behind the swather, and you don't ever have to move the pipe in order to go in and swath the hay. So it's quite a development in technology, and the folks at Far More of Idaho can really tell you a lot more about it than I can. 324-3341 is the number, or at farmoreofidaho.com, and ask them about the Certiset that you heard Kelly and Jill talking about.
Okay, so this I have, the Idaho Statesman's covering it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we have their little tweets. So their reporter Sven Berg, I don't know, he says, Judge, this was 2 minutes ago, Judge denies defense motion to dismiss Peterson lawsuit. So it's in recess for a few minutes now. So apparently you guys thought that they would dismiss it altogether.
Well, our great hope was that they would. My text that I got just a minute ago says there's no dismissal yet. They're taking a short break. My guess is that they're trying all kinds of legal strategies to make sure they've got everything in place. But
so I guess there's more than two dozen people in the audience. Judge is denying any cameras in the courtroom.
Yeah.
So no photos. So anyway,
that's common.
Yeah.
The attorney for Barry Peterson, moved by fellow party members to strip him of Republican chairman post, is irreparable harm required to stop August 2nd meeting. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. Wow. But he didn't dismiss the Peterson lawsuit.
Not yet.
So we got until just before 10.
Yeah, we got 20 more minutes. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. Meanwhile, we've got a caller. Top story. You're on the air. Good morning.
Good morning.
Let's see. Did I? Oh, you
Is
know what?
Gonna go
I'll
dark
bet
again?
it would help if I pressed the button.
Oh, good. You got me nervous.
I am so sorry. Top story. You are on the air. Good morning. Hello.
Hello?
Hey, how are you today? You're on the air.
Good. Hey, I just want to say that my husband has worked on a dairy for 20 years. He hasn't had that many raises in that time, and also he's gotten banged up a lot because it is a dangerous job. The Hispanics that work out there, most of them are on Medicaid, food stamps, whatever, because you guys were talking about you can't get people to do the dairy jobs, but you can't go out and do a dairy job and then you're going to get paid such a low wage that you're going to end up on Medicaid anyway.
Right.
So, and it's for these corporations that are complaining about raising the minimum wage. Hey, I feel for the small business guy. If they can't afford it, and it's going to hurt them, that's one thing. If you're talking about McDonald's, Costco, these big companies that can afford to raise the minimum wage, give their workers a decent living wage, that are billionaire corporations, and they're crying about it, that is a farce.
Yeah, Walmart.
Interesting question.
Yeah, what do you think, Steve?
And one of the major components of the cost structure of any corporation is the labor costs. And in my previous experience, one of the things we always looked at the hardest was what are our labor costs going to be. And I remember approving projects that would modernize or automate procedures, and the principal justification was that we could eliminate 200 jobs.
Yeah.
We can just eliminate that, and we can take all of the savings from those 200 jobs and use it to justify the process improvements.
So can we pass a law then that will exempt the mom and pop store, but only apply to the corporations? I'll bet the attorneys would have a heyday.
Oh, they'd have a heyday with that one. They would. That would go completely.
And there'd be so many different things. Well, what about franchise stores? Well, what about this and that?
And you look about sizes. Let's say that I owned half a dozen fast food restaurants, Steve's In-N-Out Burgers. So instead of having it all under one corporate shell, we would have 6. This would be a separate corporation here and a separate one, and none of them would have more than 20 employees. Yeah. And so I would fall underneath the.
Or maybe you might raise your burger $1. But hey, I just have to say, I just got a text. So it did confirm the judge denied the motion to dismiss. So they will now present evidence. He's hoping to be done today. The real issue is how the rules apply and were they applied correctly. So now they have to present their evidence on those things.
Okay, so he was just kind of saying, well, before I make a decision, I want to hear both sides.
Now I want to hear the rest of the story.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's kind of a reasonable request.
and that's not unreasonable.
You just thought that this lawsuit would be thrown out to begin with.
Yeah, that was our hope. That would be the easiest way through it.
I hope you have a good case.
We'll be right back here on Top Story. 736-0300 is the number to call here this morning on Top Story. We have the phones running over. We have Steve Millington with the Twin Falls Republicans, and we have July ending on Thursday. And during July, as you know, because you've been paying attention to everything that I've been telling you, they're having a huge blowout on the entire inventory of Starcraft and Dutchman travel trailers at Bish's RV. Plus, you'll get $1,000 in parts and accessories with your new travel trailer purchase at Bish's RV all during July, located at the Curry Crossing. So if you don't have an RV, this is your chance. And then you can go camping whenever you want.
There you go.
You don't have to rent one. You don't have to borrow one. You don't have to go to the hills and stay in a little tent that's cold at night and hot during the day and get rained on and get bugs.
Wind blowing.
Is that the point of camping? Come on. Come on.
What was it? I saw the other day going camping is the art of spending a fortune to live like a homeless person. Well, that's what's nice about it, though. An RV from Bish's RV, you don't have to do that.
No.
You can have the comforts of home. So
Absolutely.
Stop by and see him at Bish's RV at the Curry Crossing between Twin Falls and Filer on Highway 30. Okay, so the latest on the lawsuit is?
The judge did not dismiss it. He's now requesting more oral arguments from both sides, and that means that he is going to listen to a little bit more in depth the arguments from both parties, and then they hope to be done sometime today. Now, whether or not they get done before the noon recess is a big question, but we are now in the oral arguments stage.
Okay, so they're not going to get done before 10 o'clock.
No,
so
I don't think that's going to happen.
They're going to hear the full case.
All right, well...
we can talk about it tomorrow morning.
Who's representing Mike Mathews? And
they've got a law firm. The lead law firm is located in Idaho Falls, and I apologize, I was not familiar. Fortunate, I do not know all of the law firms by name.
Why was it filed in Twin Falls County then?
Then they went to Idaho Falls to get this law firm because they've done a lot of work for Republicans and Republican Party previously. They also has a backup from a law firm from Boise. So they've...
No, but I mean for Barry Peterson, those guys to file. It's interesting they didn't file it in like Ada County.
I've always wondered why that...
There's some strategy going on.
The defendant in the lawsuit is located, physically lives in Twin Falls County. And so
Cindy doesn't.
They may have filed it here.
But does Cindy sit away?
No, the lead defendant is Mike Mathews, the first vice chairman of the...
Well, they were both sued, though.
Well, that's true, but the lead defendant, the primary defendant, is Mike Mathews as first vice chair. And Cindy Sitaway was on there as...
No matter where they filed it, somebody was going to have to travel.
Somebody's going to have to travel.
I don't know. I just find it interesting. Maybe they think our judges are more lenient.
Well, we have a caller. Top Story, you're on the air. Good morning.
Good morning, Steve and Jill and Kelly.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hey. I heard the one caller talking about the wages in Williston, North Dakota. I used to work in a field where we sold a lot of stuff that went to Williston, and the company that I sold to, they were sending their truck drivers and their trucks up there. But just as a point of reference, this has been 2 years ago, mind you, they were paying $1,500 a month just to park their fifth wheel trailers in a pasture with no hookups.
Right.
Yeah.
I just did a quick search of city data, and right now the cost of living in Williston, North Dakota is 15.6% above the national average, and a one-bedroom apartment in Williston goes for $21.50 a month, all the way up to $37.50 a month for 3 bedrooms. So, in the grand scheme of things, I was doing a quick search. Milk is over $5 a gallon. Hamburgers over $5 a pound for regular ground beef. Bread is over $2 a loaf. So the only thing that's cheap there is fuel. So in the grand scheme of things, if you look at, at $17 an hour versus what they're paying for cost of living,
right,
you're right back down again to what people are making here and what they're paying for.
and they have to pay those kind of wages to keep the people there versus what they're having to pay out of their pocket for utilities and everything like that.
That's a good point, because it proves that it's kind of relative.
That everything is relative.
And thanks for that.
We look at that the free market economy functions well, but it is driven by demand and supply. And when we reach the point where that everybody in the world is lined up outside the employment office in Williston, North Dakota, then the supply will be plentiful. And the demand will shrink because I don't need to pay you $10,000 a month. I can get it done for $5,000. Yeah. And the other thing that happens with those kinds of situations is that in a free market economy, we have a thing called creative destruction. Innovation moves in, and they start to innovate a lot of these job requirements to make them less human resource required. Yeah. So we can do more automation with machinery and equipment and fewer humans and control our costs. It's just a natural evolution of these things.
I don't know if we can get this call in real quick or not. Top story, you're on the air. You got about 10 seconds.
Awesome. We always say that we would subsidize people who work. And the funny thing is we talk about the 725 and how we subsidize those people with benefits like Medicaid and Medicare. Well, what would we be paying them if they weren't working? I mean, we're going to be paying for their benefits either way. At least if they go to Walmart for 40 hours a week, they're doing something productive in society other than just sitting around watching Oprah.
Why do you think it's okay to subsidize Walmart's workforce? Give me a break.
Well, it's time now for the Huckabee Report, brought to you by Waddell & Reed. We'll be right back. You can hear the Huckabee Report each weekday at this time, brought to you exclusively by Waddell & Reed. Laura Nelson, Josh Funk, and Steve Stanger are the financial advisors, and the number is 736-6563. And now, ladies and gentlemen, here's Jill.
I want to tell you about renting mailboxes at the UPS store, Steve. You need to listen up, because the result of this lawsuit with the Republican Party, you might need to get your mail somewhere else. Go to the UPS store, rent a mailbox, tell them that Joe or Kelly sent you, and you'll receive 1, 2, or 3 additional months free. So if you're moving, if you have a home business without a retail location, you're worried about the security of your mail, go to the corner of Blue Lakes and Addison, go into the UPS store and tell Charles you need to rent a mailbox and that Joe or Kelly sent you. While you're there, you can pack, you can print, you can ship, you can copy, you can laminate. They're open on Saturdays. No drop-off fees for prepaid packages or mail. And they sell cute little animal cards. So, corner of Blue Lakes and Addison, UPS store.
There you go.
We got to get us a cute little animal card.
Very cute.
Yeah, absolutely.
Why not?
Do they have elephants?
I don't think that.
And donkeys?
Wait a minute. You tell him that he's got to get some elephant cards in there.
I have to tell him. You tell him. I don't care if they have elephant cards. You go tell Charles.
Cards.
Jill wants her donkey cards.
Oh, my donkey cards. They have kitten cards, but right now I'm most sad about kittens, so whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, well.
Okay, so we don't know anything yet, other than he didn't throw the lawsuit out.
No, he did not dismiss it. He is now calling for oral arguments from both sides. And they will go through that phase. Questionable whether or not we will get a decision before the noon break, the lunch break. So we're probably looking at something later this afternoon.
Yeah, well, when we do, can you let us know?
Yeah, I will.
Text us
send
immediately.
You a quick note and say, ha.
Very good. All right.
So what's your do you want to be a prediction on this?
No, not now.
What? Why? You thought they were going to just throw out the lawsuit? No way.
Did you think that, or were you just hoping?
I was hoping that that's what would happen. Yeah. In these kinds of things, you're always going to go through the process of the discovery and making sure that you've covered all the bases before you just make a decision. Yeah. So it would have been really interesting if we'd have just thrown it out and said, okay, we're done.
Yeah, but now do you think, and you were at the convention, were the rules applied correctly?
I thought they were. There was some misconceptions, misunderstandings at the end of the convention when they said if we adjourn and go home, everything remains exactly as it is. That was Cordell Razor's evaluation. He has subsequently said, I was wrong. That's not what the rules say. That is not applicable.
So then the rules were not applied correctly at the convention.
At that point, based on his instructions to Raul Labrador, that was incorrect.
Okay.
When the convention adjourned, the tenure of the then elected chairman ended.
Uh-oh, here you go. But Idaho rules require officers to be in place at all times, so I don't know.
Well, we can have a new election, and we'll have one. We do have
If
officers
Peterson
in
wasn't
place.
chairman when he called the August 9th meeting, the party had no officers. I don't know. It's going back and forth.
We had a first vice chair, and he's the one who called the August 2nd meeting.
Tell it to Judge Stoker.
All right. Well,
Thanks,
anyway,
Steve.
Stay tuned. We'll try to get the decision on that later today. Thank you, Steve.
Thanks.
We'll see you next
See you
time.
now.
And thank you for joining us. We'll be back tomorrow here on Top Story. Goodbye, Jill.
Bye, Cal. Bye, Steve.